Hello and welcome back to the fifth and final part of the TV deal in Scotland. The huge TV deal we put in Scotland. We've gone 25 years in the future since last episode. We're now in 2070. Hopefully at this point a Scottish side will have won a European competition because we're overdue that. First things first though, as usual, we're going to get straight into the Scottish stuff and see what they've done in the past couple years. So we're going to look at their world rankings for the past few years. I mean, we can't see all the way back to the last time we were at 2045. It doesn't quite go back that far, but if we look at their world rankings history here, it goes back to 2060. So we can see in 2060 they were 5th in the world actually and stayed in that sort of top 10 for a long time into this 2064 before having a massive drop down to 39th and a sort of stayed between 39th and a height of 12th for a little while before dropping down to 48th and have regained their status as 23rd best team in the world. So quite a big period of dips and dives though after a lot of consistency in the top 10. So we'll have to see what's happened in that little time period. Right, so back to 2045, that's a long time ago now. They won every single game that year, so must have qualified for the World Cup, but only got through to the second round against Austria. But then in the European Championships, qualifying doesn't look quite as good. Did they qualify for it? They did, but didn't get past the group stages, which they were very disappointed with the way they've been going recently. Qualifying for the 2050 World Cup looks pretty good. Only the one loss to Germany there and a few draws along the way. Wasn't enough to get them qualified, actually. I guess Germany must have topped that group. They drew and lost to Germany and also drew with Croatia, but I guess that wasn't enough to get them into the 2050 World Cup. So that's the first time in a while that we've not won or qualified for a World Cup. And the performances in European League Division A, really not very good, losing to Germany and England there. So a bit of a decline maybe at this point in the 2050s before we see that rise to the top 4 in the 2060s. European Championship qualifying not going particularly well there, but do manage to qualify but get knocked out after losing all 3 games in the group stages. Again, World Cup looks alright, but as we saw last time, a draw or 2 draws and a loss didn't get them through, so maybe they don't get through again. And they don't get through again. So World Cup qualifying, really tough. It looks like they're going to get qualified for the championships though, which they do, but don't get out of their group. They do get out of their group, sorry, a win and 2 draws. But then lose to Romania in the second round. They won't be very happy with that, I don't think. I don't know how good Romania are in the 2060s or 2050s rather, but they'll be disappointed with that. World Cup qualifying again, looking pretty good. Lose to Germany. Do they qualify this time? They do get through the group, but lose to Brazil in the second round. So they're sort of becoming like a second round team, basically. They can't get through second rounds of any competition. European qualification again looking pretty good. Get to the final this time. Now this is why they're in the top 4 clearly. They lose 2 games of their group stages, but somehow a win against Wales and 3 points is enough to put them into second round where they beat Spain. They then beat Norway, beat France in extra time in the semi-finals, but then lose to England of all sides. What a final that would have been for British football fans. England versus Scotland, that is a huge game. And unfortunately for Scotland, England coming out on top there. So we can see why Scotland were in the top 4 and 5, or the top 10 basically for the next 10 years or so. Won nearly every single game in World Cup qualifying there. Get to the World Cups, but again losing that second round after beating Iran, Ivory Coast and drawing to England. European qualifying again looking pretty good, but don't get past the group stage. A real poor group stage there. And again, World Cup qualifying, they do well in qualifying, but it gets to the actual competition, they don't do very well. But I say that, they actually don't get through this World Cup group. I assume Norway, the team that beat them and they drew against, are the side that get through, and they don't get through because they're not in the World Cup in 2066. As we move forward again, World Cup or European Championship qualifying looking pretty good. Get to the group stages, but don't progress further than that. World Cup qualifying looking kind of lacklustre, not looking brilliant, but they have qualified for it against Honduras, Germany and Australia. So very mixed performances there from Scotland over the course of the entire thing. Incredibly, they won the 2022 World Cup. That will always be one of the best moments in the experiments I've ever done on this channel. And of course, losing to England in the European Championship final also is probably a pretty high moment for Scotland. Or a low moment, but a high moment if we get to the final at least. A quick look at the national side then. No one really looks very standout, to be fair. George Bannon is the best player there. 154 current ability, but he's the best player by, he's just the best player. There's no one who looks like it's going to be decent enough to take over him. The player with the best potential isn't that much better than him either. So I don't know, maybe the Scotland side isn't really going to progress much in the future. It doesn't look like they're going to do much here either. At least looking at this national side and maybe looking at the potential of players in the under-21s, 149 is a top potential there, 130 in the under-20s and under-19s, 162 is the highest we've seen, but none of them look amazing. So it's a bit of a shame that maybe Scotland aren't going to become the world beaters that we thought they're going to be after the 2022 World Cup. Right, Ladbrokes Premiership then, the Scottish Premier League. We're going to have a look at this now, and because we've been 25 years, we're just going to look at the past winners and things like that, rather than go through each year individually, because that would take way too long. As you can see, it's still the 6th most reputable league in Europe, so I don't think it's ever got into that top 5, looking at this kind of little thing here. We'll have a quick look and see how far away it is from France, actually. If we go to this little world icon, then go to Europe, then we go to nation club coefficients. This gives us a bit more of an in-depth look. So currently, Scotland sitting on 50 and France sitting on 60, Germany on 58. So it's still a good 8 points, 10 points off breaking into that top 5, but they're way ahead of Portugal, Russia and the Dutch as well. So it's sort of stuck at 6th best in the world. If we look along here, it's actually may have overtaken France at one point in 68-69 season. It had 13 points to France's 12, so it may have overtaken France briefly there, but I think looking at that, I think it's just not been ahead of it. I think it's been behind for quite some time now. So unfortunately, it didn't break into the top 5, but it's literally the best of the rest, I think. So hopefully we'll see some decent results from Scottish football. Right, let's look at the past winners then of the Scottish Premier League. And there has been a change in guard, basically. Celtic, who have been dominant since we started this. I mean, they've won a ridiculous amount. They must have won over 100 by now, I think, in all of history, maybe. 79, so not quite 100, but not far off. 49 Scottish Cups as well, and that only the one Champions League, of course, back in 1967. Nothing else European for Celtic, so I know Celtic haven't won anything in terms of European football, which is interesting. Back to this list, though, of course, Celtic were dominant for so long before a few little brief spells when it looked like they weren't going to win it, but then they'd start to dominate again. However, we get to 2054 and everything changes. Hamilton win the league this year, which sort of triggers off them starting to win it instead of Celtic. And then, all of a sudden, since the 59-60 season, it's either been Aberdeen or Hamilton, and Celtic have not been able to get close. They've come second, which actually I suppose is close. But other than those 3 years where they came second or third as well, we'll ignore those. They've not been able to get close. Kilmarnock and Hibs actually being the sides that have been getting pretty close to Aberdeen and Hamilton. Aberdeen having the slightly better record than Hamilton, but it's nice to see that other teams than Celtic and Rangers are winning it. I hope that one day the Celtic run was going to end, and if finally it has done, with Aberdeen and Hamilton becoming the best teams in Scotland. Right, it's time to look at the stadiums as well now. Obviously, we've pumped so much money into them. New stadiums were bound to come at some point, and it has happened. Celtic, as you can see, now play in the Billy McNeill Park, who, I mean, is he a real player, or is he actually is he a regen or something? We'll find out maybe at some point. We'll have a look in Scotland's information, see what happens. But they're now playing a 99,000-seater stadium. Do they sell it out? That's what I want to know. Do they sell it out? It was built in the 60s, so actually it's quite a new stadium. But look at this home game against Hamilton. How many? 99,000 people are there watching Celtic. This one against Thun. Only 76,000 there, so obviously a very, very poor showing there, but that was a qualification round. This game against Motherwell, 77,000, so they don't quite sell it out every time, but they're doing a pretty good job of getting near that. It won't let me click on Billy McNeill, so I presume he probably was a real player at some point for Celtic, rather than a regen that's come through and has been really good, like, I don't know. I don't know if any of these are regens. I presume Okan Koch is probably a regen. Yeah, he is, but so you can click on him and see his history, but I don't think Danny whatever he's called, no, Billy McNeill, sorry, I don't think he's a regen. I think he's actually a real player. So if someone knows, let me know in the comment section why he's a Celtic legend. Aberdeen now playing the Stipe Persia Arena, 65,000 seats, built in the 2030s, so I think this could be renamed after a regen. I don't know. If we look at Aberdeen again, look at their general tab. Where is he? He must be on here somewhere as a legend. Stipe Persia, I can't click on him either, so I don't know if he's a region or not. So I think that might be the case with a lot of these things. But another stadium built there. Rangers still have Ibrox, 64,000. I don't know if it's that in real life or not, or it's been expanded, but Rangers still at Ibrox, which is pretty cool. But I think everyone else has just about had a new stadium. I think Tynecastle might be an original. Tynecastle's an original. Rugby Park probably also an original one as well. But I think everyone else, maybe Dundee Stadium, now that's a new one as well. So everyone else has had new stadiums, apart from Rangers, Hearts and Kilmarnock. Right, it's time to look at the Euro Cup now, the Europa League. And we're going to go from the quarterfinals now in every time, just to see if anyone has got there. As we can see, though, in this first year, Rangers get there but lose to Atletico Madrid. But Hamilton beat Southampton on away goals to go through to the semi-finals in the 2045-46. And in the semi-finals, they come up against Seville, beat Seville again on away goals, instantly go into the final. Who's it going to be? The first time I'm asking on this little part of the experiment, Arsenal or Hamilton? Who's it going to be? Arsenal win on penalties. How agonising is that? Hamilton did so well to get there, but lose to penalties on Arsenal. So fair play Hamilton for getting there. That's the first Scottish side we've seen get to a European final. Unfortunately, they have lost at Arsenal, but there's still 25 more years to check through to see if anyone else does win a competition. Year afterwards, no Scottish sides there, which is a bit upsetting, but Hamilton once again there in the 47-48 season, again winning on away goals, this time against Benfica. Into the semi-finals they go, but lose 3-2 to Bordeaux, who go on to play Seville in the final. But it's Hamilton, again, doing very well for themselves, getting to the final and then the semi-finals. But again, Hamilton doing very well, getting to the semi-finals and then the final again. So if we have a look then, going through, again, this season, 48-49, Aberdeen and Hamilton there. Hamilton absolutely incredible at this stage of the save. They lose 4-1 to Tottenham though, but Aberdeen go through, beating Arsenal 3-2. Semi-finals again, and they lose to Roma 4-1, unfortunately, Tottenham-Roma final. But again, it's good to see these Scottish sides get into the semi-finals. In fact, I reckon now we're just going from semi-finals. We just keep looking through the semi-finals, see if anyone gets there, although maybe that's been a bit ambitious, looking every single time. We'll go back to the quarterfinals, see if anyone's there. This year, none at all. Year afterwards, okay, I was being a bit ambitious looking at semi-finals every time. Hamilton there in the 51-52 season against Man City, but lose 6-0 on aggregate. Season afterwards, Hamilton there again, but lose to Tottenham 3-0. 53-54, nothing there, but Hibs and Hamilton get there in the 54-55 season. Hibs lose to Feyenoord 3-1, but Hamilton go through against Lazio, winning 3-2. Into the semi-finals, where they beat Lille and go for their second Europa League final. Hamilton or Monaco, who is it going to be? Hamilton win in extra time. Absolutely incredible stuff. Hamilton become the first Scottish side in this experiment to win a European competition. They took their time doing it, I've got to say. After, they get 100 million every single season, so they've had at least 5 billion. That's a bit ambitious, isn't it? At least 4 billion or so given to them, but now they've finally been able to win a European competition in 2055, beating Monaco to the title. So fantastic stuff there from Hamilton. Right, let's go and see if anyone else wins it, but not in the 55-56 season. There's no one there. Hibs get there season afterwards though, but lose to Monaco. Season afterwards, no one. But in the 58-59, Hamilton are there again, beating Villarreal. This time 3-1 on aggregate. Into the semi-finals they go, but they lose to Napoli, unfortunately, on away goals. Hamilton are absolutely incredible. They've got to so many semi-finals, I've got to say. I'm really, really impressed. Season afterwards, Celtic make a rare appearance now. They beat Inter Milan 3-2 on aggregate, but Rangers unfortunately lose 4-2 to AC Milan. So Celtic go into the semi-finals where they lose to AC Milan 3-2 on aggregate to set up a Milan-Benfica semi-final. But Celtic sort of coming out of nowhere. They've not really appeared much in anything recently, so that was good to see them. Again, Hamilton there, 2060, beat Roma 2-0 on aggregate. Into the semi-finals where they win again and set up another final against Arsenal. Will they get revenge for the 2045 Europa League final when they play Arsenal? No, they lose 3-2 again. So a bit of a rivalry between Arsenal and Hamilton at the moment. But Arsenal currently getting the better of it in Europa League finals. Right, back to the quarterfinals. Season afterwards, no Scottish sides there. Celtic are there once again in 62-63. They beat Wolfsburg to go into another semi-final, which they lose to Cologne 4-3 on aggregate. They'll be upset with that, I think. As we go into the next season then, 63-64, no one there from Scotland. Aberdeen make an appearance in the 64-65 season, but they lose to Seville, unfortunately. Season afterwards, no one there. Season afterwards, Aberdeen are there again. They managed to beat Benfica 3-2 to go into a semi-finals. And they seem to lose in the semi-finals on away goals to Ajax, which is really unfortunate. 67-68 season now, and Rangers win 4-3 against Valencia. They go into the semi-finals now, but they lose to Napoli 5-1 on aggregate. Season afterwards, 68-69 season, there are no Scottish sides there. And in the final season, Hamilton get knocked out by Wolfsburg 3-2. So 3 finals for Hamilton, 1 win, and a couple of semi-finals for them as well, along with some other sides. Fantastic stuff. I'm so impressed with Hamilton. They are the absolute heroes of this save, I think. They've saved it because I didn't think anyone was going to win a European Championship or something like that, but finally Hamilton did. So well done, Hamilton, for your absolutely stellar performances in the Europa League. Right, Champions League now, and I'm not going to be ambitious. We're just going to go through the first knockout rounds because I don't think many Scottish sides are going to get there. They weren't in that first season or that second season, but in the third one, Celtic get there but lose to Man United 3-0 on aggregate. As we keep going forward, Celtic are there again but lose 7-2 to Juventus. And there's no Scottish side in that year, but 50-51 season, Celtic are there and they beat Inter Milan on penalties, which is good going. Into the quarterfinals they go, but they lose to Juventus 5-4 on aggregate, very narrowly losing there. Right, back to the first knockout round. Keep going forward into the future. Rangers there this time, but they lose to Dortmund 2-0 in aggregate. I'm waiting to see Hamilton pop up at some point. Would it be crazy if Hamilton won a Champions League at some point? They've not been in it yet, though, as far as I'm aware. I can't see them getting through into the knockout stages there, as we keep going forward and can't see any Scottish sides, which is worrying. Right, 56-57, Celtic are there once again, but they lose 4-1 to Juventus. Now, we didn't see Celtic really at all in the Europa League. We saw them a little bit in the semi-finals once or twice, but I guess they must have been in the Champions League for most of this period of time then. Hamilton, finally in the Champions League, but they lose in that first knockout round in the 57-58 season, losing to Inter Milan, which is a big shame. As we keep going forward, though, I can't see any more Scottish sides. I'm expecting to see like two at least. Hamilton there in the 61-62 season, but lose 7-0 to Atletico Madrid on aggregate. I guess the gulf in difference between Europa League and Champions League is just too big for these Scottish sides because they can't seem to get through. Finally, Hamilton getting through into that first knockout round, and they get through it by beating Inter Milan 3-2 on aggregate. Into the quarterfinals they go, where they lose to Barcelona 4-1 on aggregate. So again, another disappointment there for the Scottish sides in the Champions League. And again, as we come forward, I just can't see the Scottish sides. Aberdeen get their 67-68 season, but lose to Benfica 3-2. And the penultimate season, Aberdeen are there again, but lose 3-1 to Man City this time. And then in the season we have just had, again, Aberdeen make it 3 from 3 actually. They've been there the last 3 seasons, but this time they lose to Juventus 6-2 on aggregate. Right, before we go, I need to do the Scottish Cup. I keep forgetting to do it, and it has been mentioned in the comments once or twice. Can you do the Scottish Cup? So this is the Scottish Cup and all the winners in the previous few years. So we start back in 2017-18 when Celtic won it, and it was basically the same few sides winning it every single time. Ross County get there, Kilmarnock get there, Dundee get one as well in 45-46 season. Kilmarnock get another one, but it's Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen and Hamilton. Hibs and Hearts get one in the late 2040s. But as we keep going through, St Johnstone get one in the mid-2060s. But other than that, it's just the same sort of teams winning it. Aberdeen being the absolute dominant side through the 2060s and into the 2070s. Right, so that is it then for the Scottish experiment. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been one of the best ones we've done, I think, with some real surprises thrown up there. The biggest one, of course, is obviously Scotland winning the World Cup in 2022. I still can't get over that. That is absolutely incredible. So thank you very much for watching this video and this series, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have done, make sure you do drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and I'll see you next time for some more Football Manager 2018 experiments.